is not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Lowe. The show is called The Legends. I want to thank everybody all over the world that actually subscribes to my show. The UK, South Africa, Italy. Hey, thanks for showing me the love. In the House of the Legends, this show is very special to me because there's one person that you're actually going to meet. But we grew up together at single digits, and here he is. But he's a film producer. And he's a writer and producer. His name is Wendell Moore. We got Jon Calvert, which is a producer. Lloyd, which is actually an actor. And they made a movie called Stepping Off with Juvey-D. But before we go there, welcome to The Legends.
Thank you.
So we're going to start off with Wendell Moore because Wendell Moore did an incredible movie back in the days in 1992. And Just Another Girl on the RRT was something that when you tune into Showtime, it was right there. And years later, he did other things too, but he just came out with another movie with him and his crew, and it's called Stepping Off with Juvey, Facebook. But before we actually get into Wendell, let's watch the clip.
Just Another Girl on the IRT encapsulates it. Chantel is personal liberation personified, and while she faces many obstacles, the issue is not with the speed at which she moves through life. It's with the people who try to hold her in her place to soothe their own inability to support her. Be it the principal who tries to hold her back, judging her to be too immature and lacking the ability to conform.
If you want to go to college, you're going to have to behave more like a lady. Your behavior now isn't suitable for college.
Does being a young lady have to do with being a doctor?
You know, with an attitude like that, you can't even help yourself.
Yo, I want to go to college.
And we're back. So we're going to tune into Wendell Moore. Now, Wendell, what's going on, man?
It brings back memories to see that picture. I had more hair then than I do now, but it was just wonderful to be a part of that, to be a part of that time back in '92, and to be a part of a renaissance that was going on, particularly in the Fort Greene area at that time.
Okay, so what inspired you to actually make this movie? Because at that time and era, man, it fits the sequence of what was actually going on in those days with people that was actually going through maybe like peer pressure and things of that nature. You want to collaborate on
So
that?
you're talking about Just Another Girl? Or?
Yes, Just Another Girl.
Well, first of all, the director of that film was Leslie Harris.
Okay.
And she is an incredible artist. And this film, I have to tell you, it really has been something that will last forever because it was about a young girl going through a lot of real hard times and dealing with issues that are prevalent today. Mm-hmm. During that time, so many other films were being made about the urban scene and the setting, but it was mostly based around guys, you know, boys in the hood.
Right.
You know, menace to society. So what Leslie did was she said, well, what are young ladies going through? You know, because in a lot of those films, the women were props to the guys.
Right.
What if we take one of those girls and take a hard look at her? Mm-hmm. So, you know, they were dealing with issues of relationships, abortion, you know, pregnancy, all kinds of things, peer pressure. Mm-hmm. And it was an amazing film at that time. And I mean, I talk to people now, and they said that's still one of their favorite films, you know,
and
from
that
back
is.
in the day.
You know, when I first seen it, I was really, really blown away because Wendell, you know, sitting there like a doctor, professor, you know, actually giving this young girl guidance, you know, and that's very important because it actually plays a part of what's going on today.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it was pre-done for today.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, what was the inspiration behind that, and why did she actually say to herself one day, I'm just going to actually make this movie because maybe she's seen something in a lot of women that were going through? Because I remember back in the days, man, you know, you holler at a girl, right, and she don't holler at you, we say, man, later for her, she's a hammer.
Right.
But it's true.
Yeah. Oh,
the
women.
slang that we used those days, and we never knew if women would actually take that personally.
Right.
But a lot of them did.
Yeah, and it hurt.
You know.
It did hurt. But, you know, you got to remember back in those days, there were things that were prevalent, like the AIDS, HIV epidemic was really starting to, you know, be a big thing. And, you know, there was a lot of, like, gang situations and all kinds of things that was happening back in the 90s. And everybody's opinions seem to have been elevated except that of young ladies, you know. So what I love about that film is that it spoke to a population that was unseen and unheard. It was done at a time where unprotected sex was dangerous. You know, I still think, you know, it's out there.
Of course,
it's still dangerous. But that was a time when it was like, you know, everybody had to have a Jimmy hat. Remember that? A Jimmy hat.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, Leslie, I take my hat off to her. She inspired me so much.
Right.
She made this film. Hollywood was not interested in making it happen. You know, they had conditions, you know, as far as like, well, if you make this change or if you do this, we'll fund you. And she stood her ground and she said, no, I'm making it the way I want to make it.
And that's genuine.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think? How would you describe a relationship with the cinematic or the editor that actually did this movie?
Well, I didn't really have a relationship because my role was really just not as a producer so much as just an actor coming in. So, but I do know that there was a lot of care. There were a lot of, you know, like high grade, you know, level people that dedicated, you know, to be in that film. It was not a high budget film. It was very low budget. So if you got some quality people, you know, they was giving you like some good work without giving you that good price.
Right.
You know, they just felt dedicated. So.
Some films you have to have, even though some people watch it, but they don't have an open mind to it.
Right.
And that loses the fidelity of it if you don't have an open mind to it. What can you say about that, Jon? And Jon's a producer, so can you answer that question?
Well, I think what was amazing about Just Another Girl is that the way she really did stay true to her vision. There's a story she tells about going to funders and them saying, we'll do this film if you make the boyfriend be a drug dealer. And she held back on that, and you know, again, as Wendell just said, was true to her guns and made the film that she wanted to make. And it's hard to do, and this might not be the same pot of gold at the end of the day if you follow your own heart. But then you make a piece of art that actually endures, as hers does to this day.
So at this point, how do you actually involving as an artist? Keep them involving, if you understand what I'm saying. Keep them encouraged, keep them focused, things of that nature, especially if they actually have a script. You know, how do you bring out the best of them?
Well, if there was any golden rule that you could pass, everybody'd be a pretty rich person right now. But it's a challenge, and I guess any artist, really, you have to really be motivated to want to make your art succeed and to do what you want to do. And it's really almost not a business to think about in terms of making money. It's a business in terms of that you want to make a piece of art and then just see what comes of it. And it's in the case of the movie we're going to talk about in a few minutes, it was something that we first worked on literally 35 years ago and was lost in time, and has come back, and it's been a joy to finally seen the light of day. But things take time, and you never know what the future might bring.
My question to everybody is, how do you navigate the business side of the industry? You know, the fundamentals of the business side of it, the golden rules. Sometimes you actually, like Wendell says, you actually put a production out and you try to put it broadband, and the stipulations come as far as they want to actually rearrange your production. I mean, how do you feel about it, and how do you think is a better way to get around that?
Well, to get around it is to be true to yourself. You know, there's a lot of people who are in these executive offices now that don't really have movie-making skills. They're accountants, they're analytics, they're all kinds of people from different industries that have nothing to do with filmmaking. And they're in a position to decide whether they're going to greenlight a film or not. And if they are going to greenlight a film, they're basically saying, well, we've got to see something in there that we've seen before. We've got to see something in there that makes sense to us. So if you bring an original script to some of these places, they don't know what to do with it because they've never seen it before, and they don't know how to market it. And if they can't market it, and if they can't come to terms with how this structure works, there's a good chance it's not going to get funded. So that shouldn't stop anybody from making the films that they want.
Okay.
Because always be true to what it is you're trying to do. Don't go into it thinking I'll do whatever they want me to do because it will no longer be your film. You know, I mean, I can't tell people that because sometimes people need the money to do whatever, and they'll make the sacrifice and they'll cut blood and they don't care. But I think if you're a true artist, do your film.
Okay.
The way you want to do it and fight for it. And, you know, and determine how you're going to sacrifice whatever it takes to make this film come to light.
You know.
But always stick to your guns and don't walk in there ready to compromise.
Well, you know, my hat's off to Leslie, man, because she actually did a production without fear of limitation.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very strong thing, man.
Hey, listen, I was there with her, man. We, you know, we were supposed to be in a classroom, and we were actually in some, I can't remember what office it was. It was somebody's office off of 4th Street. So, you know, she knew what she was doing.
Oh, okay.
She said, you know, you production design, you can make anything look like anything. And she made that film come together. She got it whole, and to this day, it's in the heart of so many people. So if you really want to make it happen, you do and figure out whatever it is you need to do to make it happen. So.
I remember years later that it actually came about to the fact where they directed again. I think it was at a film festival or somewhere downtown Brooklyn where they actually shot it again. I think, if you remember.
They shot it or they screened
it?
No,
they played it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I guess you were there. When you looked at the audience, what did you actually see in their faces then?
Man, wonder. You know, it was like a whole new audience, you know. There were a lot of people that hadn't seen the film before. And I remember how the young people, particularly her character, Chantel, the lead, resonated with young people in the audience. And I remember after we were taking photos together, and they would run out, they were saying things like, wow, this is so on point. You know, I know a young girl who's going through that right now with her pregnancy, you know, and it's just, it resonated. And to see that and to feel the enthusiasm that people have for this film, you know, I hope and pray that there's a part 2. And I hope I have a small part.
There's nothing wrong with it. So Lester, being an actor, man, how does it, well, first of all, how did you actually get into acting anyway?
I only did it because a good friend, good mentor asked me to help
And I'm
out.
jealous, you know why? Because he knew me, he could have had me in that movie, man. I came to his house on Prospect Place that time, you know, and I was like, okay. I'm just kidding with you, man. Go ahead.
But I mainly did it for him, and most of the actors in our production were all people from the neighborhood.
Right.
And it was centered around him and John putting something together that we said, yeah, we'll support. And we had fun. We enjoyed it.
Okay. And what did you get out of it, even though you had maybe a small part of it, but then again, you were part of it. So how did you look at this whole sequel of it, in your opinion?
Well, doing it at the time we did it, it was interesting. I was young. I was younger than I am now. And it was interesting. And it, like we all said, at that time, a lot of the different movies out were about the same thing.
Right.
And we looked at it like, okay, we've seen The Boys in the Hood, but that's out on the West Coast.
Right.
We didn't have anything representing the East Coast, much less New York, much less even Brooklyn and our own neighborhood. So for us, for the neighborhood, it was like, yeah, we're going to do this to show this is some of the things that go on where we're at.
Okay.
And how we have to deal with it. And the storyline, we liked it because when he presented it and let us know, it was a little bit different because it was from a point of view of somebody else looking in.
Right.
So that way it wasn't like actors, because I'm titled as an actor now, but I was just helping a friend out.
Right.
He gave me the direction on what to do, what to say, even though I didn't speak much.
Oh, right.
But it was all about the way we did it and what we enjoyed. A lot of the scenes that you'll see in that particular product, a lot of them were taken in real streets. We didn't have no permits to block off, so we had a couple of times where real law enforcement was coming in like, okay, we like, no, it's just a movie. And that we
Right.
as the actors, as young as we were proud of that because, like, yo, we really did something that really looks real.
Right. Did y'all get any other type of feedback where they was actually trying to take anything away from the movie?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
People will talk about against it in a sense. People will say, well, it's a good movie, but they have the critics that will actually try to take things away from the movie as far as fidelity. Have you ever experienced anything like that from anybody?
I don't. Not with stepping off.
Just a hypothetical question.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying. That's the risk you take whenever you make a film and you put it out there and it's available for public consumption. There are people that are going to understand it and get it, and there are people that are not going to understand it and find negative things that sometimes don't make any sense at all, but they just want to have an opinion. They want to have a voice on what it is you've done.
Right.
But our feedback has been exceptional.
Okay.
And it's across the board, across gender, across age, race. Everyone that has seen this has walked away with something because this is not a film about just kids and guns and drugs and crime and all that. This has a heart, and the heart is the innocence of trying to see your life through your own lens, and then having it reflected on as an adult, and your young life, and have it reflected later on in life as an adult. And really, that's what the story is.
Through your expertise, things of that nature of being a filmmaker, director, and producer, have there always been a change of conflict as far as somebody's ideas about how they actually want to produce a production? John?
Well,
I mean, sometimes you're actually, just like if I'm in a recording studio with somebody and I'm trying to do something, and then the person that actually wants me to do it the way they do it, there always seems to be a side conflict, things of that nature. Some type of disagreement on the way that you really want to project.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, and we're speaking now, stepping off with Juvey-D, which was this film that we actually originally filmed back in '91 and '92.
Right.
And there was no problem with dealing with money makers or anything like that because we did it on a shoestring. Lester just spoke about not having permits. I mean, we shot this thing. I think our entire budget literally was under $1,000. We shot it, weekends, Sundays, volunteer or actors, volunteer cast, and obviously volunteer talent from the top to the bottom. And it was a labor of love and of inspiration. And because of that, we had discussions about what the script or what the direction of the characters might be. We were going through the whole process trying to figure out how we were going to end this film.
Right.
And it was always a challenge. And then circumstances put this thing on hold for 30 years because the footage was lost.
And that's amazing.
But as a result of that, suddenly we got our ending because our ending was suddenly this young man looking back at his life and something happened 30 years ago. And Wendell wrote a fantastic narration to knit it all together. So even though the footage is primarily stuff that was shot in 1991, it has a very fresh feeling right now in the sense of a young man who's been through something traumatic and has grown up into a valuable, wonderful life.
And so we have a clip on that, and so we're going to run that clip for you
Beautiful.
guys to bring you guys up to speed with Stepping Off with Juvey-D.
When I was 14, I took my father's camera to make a home movie with my friends. I wanted to capture those cherished moments of my simple-minded years and share them with my kids and grandkids. I didn't know what I was doing. I just pointed the camera and pressed the record button. Whatever happened, happened. There was no cell phones or social media. Back then, we was outside. But this was Brooklyn in the 90s. And being outside wasn't always the safest place to be. This was the year that I realized that Brooklyn wasn't just a borough. It was a whole adventure.
Hey, well, give me that camera. Yeah, give me that camera, man. Hey, put that shit on 65 News, man.
And we're back. Now, Wendell, the vibes back in those days were so different to the vibes right now. I think the unification process was a whole lot different back then than it is now. But my question to you is, how did you get the actors to do exactly what you wanted, man?
Well, we had a lot of pizza. We had a lot of pizza. You know, during the time I had a video store, so there were a lot of free rentals.
Right.
You know.
I think I remember that.
You remember
yeah,
that?
Yeah. Beta. I used to get my beta from you.
Beta? Oh, that's before my time. And we just had a goodwill in the neighborhood. You know, we sponsored basketball teams. Yes. We had families that came to that store. We were trusted, you know, and we're part of the fabric. So when we decided that we were going to put this film together, you know, we just put it out there. Like, you know, anybody interested in acting. There was no real, you know, Hollywood casting call or nothing like that. We wrote the stories and looked at people as they came in. And I remember talking to Chris's mother. I said, we're doing this film, and your son would be perfect. And, you know, gave us some of the lines. And, and she trusted us. It was that kind of deal, you know. And the same thing with Ant-Man, who is the best friend of the lead, and his mother actually not just allowed us to have her son in it, but she let us use her house, you know, as a setting, as a set. So it was that kind of thing. It was goodwill, you know. We asked, and people, they felt us, they believed in what we were doing, and they just gave us the grace. And, you know, we had a lot of people, like John and I were looking at this, there's about 30 different locations, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of those interiors were donated to us. Barber shops, living rooms, you know, the video store, you know, was mine, so it was no problem there. But it was just because of, I think, our goodwill, and, you know, there was no pressure. You know, we just asked people to be themselves. Right. We didn't say, you know, that you have to do it a certain way or this or that. I said, how would you do it? Yeah. And that was the big thing. How would you do it? And, you know, there was no ego as far as, you know, how
that's incredible, though.
Was going to be shot, and, you know, what we told people to do. And I always was a student while we were doing this, because I didn't know how the young life was at that time. I knew what it was when me and you were coming up. Right. But I didn't know what it was like when these kids in the 90s were coming up, you know. So I said, well, how would y'all handle this situation if this went down? What would you say? When y'all use this kind of slang, what does it mean, you know? So that's how it came together. It was really just organic.
Okay.
I just like to add that you can't underestimate the value that Wendell brought as a director to this, because he had the openness to develop this relationship, and he was a mentor to a lot of the young people that were involved. And it's funny, as this has come out, you've got in touch with some kids that we hadn't been in touch with for 30 years that just remember him as a, you know, he gave him his first job, and he's, you know, he's an opportunity. Anyway, so, and Wendell's had a long career working with young people since then. This was sort of an entree to a tremendous skill that he has. So hats off to this man for pulling this off.
Just for the information for the viewers, can you define what a director is and what a producer is?
And I just should say, I'm a producer, but Wendell also is a producer. We each are producers on this film. But essentially, the director is really the person that's in most charge of the thing. He takes the script, and in this case, Wendell wrote the script as well, and then the film executes his vision, and he directs the photographer. This is the kinds of shots I want. These are the kinds of scenes I want, and works on the emotion and doesn't accept the film being shot until the person's given him the scene that he's looking for and gives him back what he needs. And the producer is step and fetch it, go get the pizza for the cast, and you know, drive the kids around, and then all the other things. And then of course it's evolved over the years. Right now, as producers, we're trying to figure out how we can market this film and get it out in front of people's eyes. But but the artistic vision is rooted in the director and in what he takes the script to be and how he executes that film.
Okay. And I gotta say, he sold himself short, because he didn't only just drive the kids around or get pizza and nothing like that. You know, we needed someone to open up the doors.
That's right.
But,
Just to sweep the broom, you know.
Yeah.
but Jon is a talented writer, and he's a talented filmmaker in his own right.
Right.
And he has a touch. His touch is throughout this film. You know, there are things that I'm very, once I get my momentum going,
Right.
you know, I can move forward and I'll just keep digging. But the thing with Jon, he has a lot of patience and he sees areas that are blind spots to me in the film. And he has this very innate ability to really take, like he'll say, Wendell, this scene shouldn't be here. This should be cut here.
Right.
And I'm fighting and saying, no, it should be here.
That's what I mean, the conflict of between the producer and the producer.
It's
the
a-
producer and the director.
But I love it because I think you can't have good creativity without struggle.
Yeah, it's true.
You gotta argue. You gotta,
Right.
you know, pout. You gotta do all that because at the end of the day, I don't think either one of us is unreasonable. We will sit down and figure it out and say, you know what, you're right.
Right, right.
I think it works better that
Yeah.
way.
And that's the conclusion of it.
That's it. So you go through that, but I don't want him to underestimate himself. He's a brilliant writer, brilliant producer. He's done projects, and he's just like we just complement each other.
Okay.
Really
This
do.
question's for you, Lester. Upcoming artists that's coming up these days as far as acting and things of that nature, briefly, what would you say to them today? Due to the fact that you've done it yesterday and you're more at a futuristic mode today, what would you actually say to them through your prior experience?
Well, my prior experience was it was unique. It was my first time. And for them, I just tell them, if acting is what you want to do, be true to yourself and be true to your art. Don't just take any role. Understand what you want and don't give up, and give yourself a broader spectrum so that way you can do and still stay in the business if that's what you want.
Okay.
But you have to be real with yourself. You got to be able to look in the mirror and say, this is what I want to do. At that time, I was a young man. I was just helping my friend out.
Right.
But in doing it, when he'd come to me, and yeah, me and him have an ongoing battle where I always let him know that he took my good speaking part. But he said, no, you don't need to do it that way. And when he took it away, I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I wanted to be heard, but it gave a different presence. And it gave me the understanding that...
Especially through the playback.
Yeah, and it gave me a different understanding that in acting, it's not always about what you want. You got to understand what it is that the project needs.
Okay.
So, and that helped me understand what he wanted, and because of who he was and how he, like Jon said, almost every one of the young characters that you've seen, that you will see in Juvey-D, this man was part in their life at some point, giving them an example, supporting them, because he actually gave me a job too at one time. And it was, like he said, just giving back, and then helping him out. It helped me out. It helped others out to see what we can do and where we can go.
Well, you know what, gentlemen? Time is up. But you know what? It's been a pleasure having you guys on my show.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, come again.
Thank you so much.
If we have to do this another time with something extensive, you guys are welcome. And this has been another T-Love video production, and you guys stay tuned for another episode.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.